I was having the but Rico from StreetScores, who recorded a whole 35-minute video and didn't notice his mic was off. So this is the second take, but out of the way, we're here to talk about the Terry McLaurin contract situation. I'm here to update y'all on everything. We're gonna go in chronological order from every update, rumor, report that has come out since like Tuesday or something like that. Like the last 4 or 5 days, we're gonna really dive into like where are we at right now with this Terry McLaurin situation. Who should we believe? That's gonna ultimately be up to you. I'm gonna go ahead and give you all the disclaimer right now. Who knows which source is actually the most trustworthy or not? It's really up to you to take all of this information with a grain of salt. We're going to dive into every report, every reporter that has discussed the situation and figure out where we are right now. Is it potentially good or bad news from the Commanders? A little mix of both. And I also want to dive into what are our next steps? What are our options? You know, and I even want to dive into why we need Terry McLaurin for this offense to prosper and our chance to get back to the Super Bowl. We're going to talk about contract numbers. We're going to talk about AAV. We're going to do a big discussion on guaranteed money, all of that type of stuff. And we're also going to reference my dog, Rio Robinson, who had an interview one-on-one with ESPN's Jeremy Fowler himself. So definitely go make sure y'all check out that video after you're done with this one. Make sure you go, because they dive like a little bit more into detail. I'm going to talk about some of the things they discussed, but I'm not about to just sit here and straight up steal content. So make sure y'all go check that out as well. I'm doing more so of like a comprehensive macro view on the whole contract situation. Again, going back days, but make sure y'all go check that out for a more detailed, refined, hearing it from Jeremy Fowler himself interview through Rio Robinson. And before we get into everything, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all the content. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. Of course, I'm live streaming this preseason game against the Patriots, man. I'm live streaming all 4 quarters. I know it's backups. I don't care. We're gonna hyper analyze everything. There's some guys fighting for the last few spots on the roster that's on the bubble. There's guys that are backups that are trying to crack the starter rotation or at least be like a heavy contributor in the rotation on Sundays and things like that. So we're gonna dive into everything, every player, every position group. Y'all know me, man. And the game starts at 7:30. I'm starting to live stream at 6:30 because I feel like there's so much to talk about even before the game starts. So I'll be live streaming from 6:30 until the game ends, probably like 12 or 1. Probably even give some thoughts after that as well and answer super chats, all that type of stuff. So make sure you pull up later on tonight, Friday, August 8th, for that preseason Commanders versus Patriots matchup. And without further ado, let's go ahead and dive into this video right now. Adam. All right, so first of all, yesterday we didn't have any practice. Of course, the preseason opener is later on this evening / tonight, and it's highly unlikely that any starters will play, like any of them. And even if any couple of maybe handful of starters play, first of all, it's not going to be Jaden Daniels, and they may not play very long at all, even if they do. Like even like a rookie like Trenavian Amos may not play because he's already a certified starting outside corner. I even slightly doubt like Josh Connolly. Now Jalen Lane, Kane Madrano, and Ja'Cory Cross-Merritt, I'm expecting them to play not only just some, but a lot. But I don't know. Josh Connolly, I'm somewhere in the middle. I'm not sure because he is projected to be our starting right tackle, especially right now with Brandon Coleman hurt and Andrew Wiley being basically our starting left guard until Brandon Coleman's back healthy. But I know for a fact a lot of the starters, and I highly doubt Trenavian Amos, and definitely 100% put your life savings on Jaden Daniels not taking a single snap in this game. Matter of fact, it's already been announced that Sam Hartman will be the starting quarterback for this Week 1 preseason game against the Patriots. Jaden Daniels will not be playing, but also Marcus Mariota dealing with some sort of like a lower leg injury that Dan Quinn says is not serious. He will not play as well. He didn't even travel to New England with the team to go to that joint practice. Anybody that didn't travel there will not be playing in that preseason game, just to let you know. I know we're supposed to be talking about Terry McLaurin, but I wanted to give you all these updates. So guys like Jordan McGee, Marcus Mariota, anybody that didn't, Brandon Coleman, and all of those 7 guys that didn't participate in that joint practice, that didn't fly with the team in New England, will not be in that preseason game. But I thought it was interesting because that means Sam Hartman will probably start the first half, and then Josh Josh Johnson will probably start the second half. We'll see how they do it. But either way, Sam Hartman is the starting quarterback, snap one of quarter one, all of that type of stuff. And I'm just really excited, of course, to see Jalen Lane and Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara. We're going to do deep dives into all of them. Of course, like while we're watching the game live together, I will really be focusing on them. Like Jalen Lane's route running, is he getting open? Even if he's not getting the ball, is he getting open? And then, of course, Ja'Cory Cross-Kamara, when he comes into the game, he's going to be the person I have my eye on the most. But even guys like Johnny Newton, you were supposed to be a first-round talent. Where are you at right now? So we're going to get into all of that, of course, live during the actual preseason game. But now moving on to Terry McLaurin, starting with going all the way back to Tuesday, August 5th. Let's talk about it. So Deanna Rossini wrote an article and even did an entire YouTube video dedicated to it, saying Terry McLaurin is looking for parts of DK Metcalf's new Steelers contract in his negotiations with the Commanders, but not necessarily Metcalf's $33 million average salary. That's interesting. There's a few things right there. First of all, like I said, I've already said it before. I feel like we need to meet somewhere in the middle. I can understand why he's not referencing Cortland Sutton's contract. I can understand why Adam Peters is trying to use that as the contract that we use as a reference point. But Terry McLaurin's out there apparently trying to use DK Metcalf like, hey, I'm better than this guy. I deserve at least somewhat around him. If I'm not getting more, at least something around it. You know what I'm saying? And I agree Terry is better than DK Metcalf, but it feels like the Commanders are being punished for the Steelers finessing DK Metcalf's contract on the surface in a way that it looks like he's getting paid $33 million per year. When in actuality, I mean, technically on the surface he is, but we're going to dive into the contract soon. He's not going to see anywhere near all of that money. Not even close. They can cut him by 2029 and pretty much get a lot of the money back, and technically that year of the contract doesn't count. But when his agent, that's the reason that this whole contract is fluffed up to look like this and over exaggerated a little bit. The agent has it looking like, oh, DK Metcalf has the potential to make all of this money. I'm telling you right now, there's like a 97% chance he doesn't even reach close to all of that money that you're seeing in the over. When you just type in DK Metcalf's contract on Google, it's going to tell you he's making this amount of money over this many years. I'm telling you right now, a lot of the money will never be seen. And so hopefully Terry McLaurin isn't looking at the surface level. He's looking at the intricacies of like the details, the nuances of his contract. We're going to dive into that soon. And I mean, I understand, like, you are better than DK, but $33 million per year, but I think it's really a guaranteed situation. I think the guarantees is, I hope Terry McLaurin, we're having a discussion and a debate right now. We're not able to see eye to eye on guarantees. I hope we're not talking average annual value. First of all, again, that's very surface level if that's what Terry McLaurin and his agent care about, but also that's just really hard to reach. I mean, paying Terry McLaurin top 3 money, love Terry, that's pretty crazy. But of course, outside of AAV, Metcalf is getting $60 million guaranteed, which again, some people speculate is the holdup between the two sides. And I kind of hope that is the holdup. And then if you look on the screen right now, shouts out to JP Finley for even showing us this contract. And he said, first of all, this is DK Metcalf's contract that you're looking at. And he said, I understand if Terry McLaurin's camp wants a similar deal to DK Metcalf, but focusing on average annual value is silly. Focus on the guarantees. I completely agree. Like I just said, average annual value is often inflated by high money late in the contract with no guarantees. Those years are unlikely to ever even happen. This is DK Metcalf's that you're looking at. Do you think that 2029 season is even happening? I mean, look at this contract. Especially, let's just go directly to 2029. He'll be 32 years old. His cap number is estimated to be $41.5 million. There's no way the Steelers at DK Metcalf being 32 years old is going to let that contract walk. They will cut him before they let him play on that season under making that much money. They could cut him, as you can see with the dead money, they could cut him and end up getting $34 million worth of cap space right back. Like $35.5 million worth of cap space and get around $35 million worth of cap space right back. He's not making it to that. I highly doubt at 32 years old, they're going to feel like, yeah, you being a nearly $42 million cap hit makes a lot of sense. If anything, they may just restructure it to where he's eating up less cap space and stuff like that. But it's a lot of fluff. His contract is very backloaded. Look at the base salaries going down, how backloaded it is. He's not even getting a lot this year. It really starts to kick in 2026 next season for real when he's 29 years old. But a lot of this stuff is backloaded. I mean, look at the guaranteed salaries. You know what I'm saying? With the $5 million 2025, the 25 million in 2026. All of that other stuff technically not guaranteed. These cap hit numbers, they can easily just get out of this contract definitely by 2029, but maybe even before. So people are looking at this contract like, yeah, DK Metcalf is getting $33 million a year, but it guarantee wise, how much money he actually is destined to receive by the end of it is nowhere near in the range of the other wide receivers that he's at with average annual value rankings like CeeDee Lamb, Jamar Chase, Justin Jefferson. He's not going to make anywhere near as much money that actually hits his bank account as much as those guys. So it looks like he's the third or fourth highest paid wide receiver right now, but that's a lot of fluff on the surface that his agent hypes up to be like, look at me, I'm DK Metcalf's agent, and I got him to be the third or fourth highest paid wide receiver in the NFL by average annual value, which is why we don't look at that. So I just feel like, Terry, hopefully you're analyzing this the same way that I'm breaking it down, please. But Mark Phillip brings up a good point with some of the reports that we've been hearing lately, especially the ones that were coming out on Tuesday with Deanna Rossini and those guys. Both sides, if all reports are true, keep getting closer and closer together as far as this range. Like at some point in time, we heard like a range of 23 million to 33 plus, like somewhere like 34, 35. We've heard a range of like a $12 million difference between what Adam Peters is offering and willing to give Terry and what Terry McLaurin wants and what he's willing to sign for. Like there was like a $12 million gap at one point. And so at the very least, it seems like the gap is closing a little bit more. You'll see. Now moving on to what went down yesterday morning, Thursday morning. Jeremy Fowler came out with a big bombshell report that, quote, Terry McLaurin has wanted metrics of the DK Metcalf contract, agreeing with Deanna Rossini right there, which is $32 million. I'm told the Commanders have only been slightly above where he was from before, which is $23 million of his current contract. So what does slightly above mean? Are we talking literally like a petty slightly, like 24, 25? Or are we talking slightly like 28, which I think makes the most sense around like where Terry McLaurin deserves to go? I'm somewhere settled in like 28 and a half. I think that would be perfect. I think that's a win-win for everybody, but that's a whole nother video in itself. I'm just trying to run y'all through what's going on right now from Tuesday to Thursday morning to Thursday evening. Again, I'm gonna catch y'all up on everything. So take that gap. That's a $7 to $8 million gap potentially at most that they have to bridge together. And Washington, I'm told, has got some calls about McLaurin, and there's some interest league-wide to potentially trade for him. But of course, the Commanders have shut down every single call that has come through potentially for Terry McLaurin in a trade. Didn't D-Day brings up a good point too. He said Fowler has been pretty consistent with the 25 mil, apparently that may be around the range of where the Commanders are offering him. But then Stephen A. Smith came out of nowhere and said the sources told him 27 million was offered by the Commanders. So I know $2 million doesn't sound like a lot NFL contract wise, but to me, $2 million is a lot of money, man. I would love to take that. And Terry McLaurin could be fighting for every single penny. So that $2 million difference could be a huge chasm to Terry McLaurin and maybe even Adam Peters on their side, because we're trying to build a Super Bowl contender long term here. And we need to make sure we have every available cap space dollar, because things get ugly, especially when we got to pay Jaden Daniels his record-breaking contract. When his contract ends, when that rookie deal comes up, it's going to get ugly. So yeah, $2 million difference is pretty serious. So I don't know if Jeremy Fowler's right about the round 25 million. If Stephen A. Smith is right around the 27 million that he's hearing. If I had to pick between the two, I personally trust Jeremy Fowler more, but that's not to say that Jeremy Fowler is automatically right and Stephen A. Smith is automatically wrong. But didn't D-Day also said the numbers aren't wildly different, but it is strange that the mothership, which is ESPN, are suggesting two different numbers. Again, a $2 million difference is pretty significant, maybe even in Terry McLaurin's eyes. Are we supposed to trust one source over the other or neither? And that's really the point of this video and why I gave you this disclaimer. Take everything we talk about in this video with a grain of salt. So no matter who says it, Jeremy Fowler, Stephen A. Smith, Deanna Rossini, we're going to dive into a couple of more sources. No matter who says it, just know that I'm not 100% sure who's right, who's correct, who's actually spreading reports, or who's spreading rumors. Or there could be smoke screens. Maybe Adam Peters is feeding certain information that isn't true. Maybe Terry McLaurin and his agent are feeding information to Jeremy Fowler and these reporters that aren't necessarily true. So I really want to emphasize again, while we're like around the halfway point of this video, please take all of this information with a grain of salt. But going to Mike Hall, shouts out to him over there from the Burgundy Zone. He said slightly over 23 million is exactly what Terry's boy was on here saying, what they were offering, and that is highly disrespectful if true. Now, I don't know if y'all know that, but there was a point in time going on in the Twitterverse where apparently like Terry McLaurin's like real close friends, like real life boys, were out here saying, man, forget whatever people are talking about out there about the Commanders maybe offered like 27, 20. Nah, they're only offering 23. They're being real disrespectful to my boy. And I believe in one of those friends like deactivated his Twitter or hit it or something like that because of course fans attacked him like out of course because they're upset about the whole Terry McLaurin situation and it just got chaotic. But either way, apparently Terry McLaurin's real life friends were like, man, they're only offering him $23 million right now. They're shortchanging my dog. And so Mike Hall brings up a good point. If that is true, this 1000% turns the blame back on AP for how this whole situation is going. If they actually are for real only offering $23 million a year, I am looking at Adam Peters a little crazy. I'm looking at Terry crazy for this reported apparently $33 million a year. I'm looking at Adam Peters just as crazy for only 23. Again, like I said, somewhere in the 28-29 range is good for me. I think that's a happy middle win for everybody. But now let's dive into the real Jeremy Fowler report and everything that he said. So of course the Commanders and wide receiver Terry McLaurin remain locked in a classic standoff according to ESPN's Jeremy Fowler. Fowler reported Thursday on Get Up that teams are reaching out to Washington about acquiring the two-time Pro Bowler, but Washington isn't budging in terms of entertaining that possibility. Let's stop right there. The Commanders have made it clear, and that's one consistent message that has been going. I haven't heard anybody else refute that except for random Twitter accounts that are just trying to get clicks and views, you know, just basically clickbaiting and stuff like that. Everybody else, every source, every reporter, ESPN, NFL Network, whoever has said the Commanders have turned down every single offer that has potentially been made to them about trading for Terry McLaurin. Now, of course, if there's an offer you can't refuse that comes up, you know, shouts out to my boy Don Corleone. If there's an offer you can't refuse, then you may have to think about it. Like, say some team offers some absurd 3 or 4 first round picks, ridiculous. I'm not even sure if you can get Terry McLaurin, you can get a first round pick for him right now, just one. So if a team comes out of nowhere and gives you a ridiculous offer, of course you have to be like, all right, now that's just silly. For Terry McLaurin, and you giving me several first round picks, maybe even a player, then now we'll think about it. But in the realm of realistic possibilities, the Commanders have shut down any chance, any talks of trading Terry McLaurin. If you ain't coming with some ridiculous, impossible to pass up offer, we're ignoring you, we're cutting you off. We don't even want to hear it. So that's interesting to hear. It's clear and that's, I mean, we can debate about which source is true about the numbers, but the consistent reporting of the Commanders refused to trade Terry McLaurin seems to be, that's at least something we can believe about this situation. So the Commanders clearly covet Terry McLaurin. They want him here. They want him here long term. It's just about the money right now. There's no doubts about them wanting to keep Terry McLaurin here long term. It's just the money. And so going back to Jeremy Fowler, he said they have been far apart. And I'll put it this way. He has wanted metrics of the DK Metcalf contract, which is around $32 million. I'm told the Washington Commanders have only been slightly above where he was before, which is $23 million. So take that gap. That's about $7 to $8 million that they have to bridge right there. So if he's saying a $7 to $8 million gap, Terry McLaurin's apparently looking for 32. Sounds like the Commanders are offering 25. Just doing basic math there. And I'm told Washington has gotten calls about McLaurin, and there's some interest league-wide. And then Fowler echoed earlier reporting from colleague Don Graziano, both in terms of teams' unwillingness to trade Terry McLaurin and the wideouts contract demand. So this has been a consistent thing over and over again, no matter who's talked about it. But NFL Network, Mike Garafolo came with an interesting bombshell. He said, however, he downplayed the extent to which interested suitors are actually contacting the Commanders. He reported Monday that teams weren't burning up the phone lines after McLaurin formally requested a trade. And that's a quote, burning up the phone line. Sounds like, you know, when you're hearing teams are potentially interested in trading for Terry McLaurin, you naturally think, oh, it's probably a big market out there. There's probably several teams. And apparently Mike Garafolo's like, nah, maybe like a handful, maybe only a couple, maybe only confirmed one. You know what I'm saying? It sounds like the phone wasn't booming like we thought it was, or at least Terry hoped it was. So it sounds like his market may be limited, which takes me to the point that if his market is limited, that means the Commanders can, I wouldn't say necessarily lowball him, but if no other team is out there willing to offer Terry McLaurin way more money than what we're willing to offer him, then it doesn't sound like he has a market or really any real leverage to use. Like if there was another team, say like the Steelers or Chargers, they really wanted Terry McLaurin, and not only are they willing to trade for him, they're telling Terry, hey man, we'll pay you $33 million a year like you like. But if no team is doing that, and if the highest offer out there outside of the Commanders is maybe only like $1 to $3 million per year more than what the Commanders are offering, it's ugly for Terry McLaurin. If there isn't like this big market of multiple teams trying to outbid each other of like, no, I want Terry, no, I want Terry, okay, I'll offer him this much, no, I'll offer him more than that. If that's not going on, things are ugly in Terry McLaurin's side. It makes his leverage look even less effective than it already did. The Commanders have complete 100% leverage on their end. Of course, Terry can look at a point to the receivers, and we're going to dive into that later about how ugly this receiver depth is right now. Of course, he can point to that and be like, man, you got to pay me. But at the end of the day, the harsh reality is, Terry McLaurin, you are under contract this season. You have to show up and play. If you don't, that's not beneficial to you at all. The problem with paying you a lot of money right now is because you're about to be 30 by the time the season basically starts, very early in the season, like early mid-September, right? If you skip out this year, you're only getting older. Now you're going to be turning 31 trying to get big money. That doesn't help your case at all. If the Commanders are not willing to pay you a lot of money because you're 30, and other teams out there aren't willing to pay you much more money than what the Commanders are offering you because you're 30, how much better do you think your chances are of getting that big money turning 31? Like, I don't really see how that works. And again, like I've said before in several videos, the Commanders could really just hold their arms, just fold their arms together, look at Terry crazy and be like, all right. So, I mean, even if you don't skip out on this year, you're under contract. So you're going to show up and play this year for the reasons I've already explained. And then we could really do you dirty and then just franchise tag you going into the 2026 season. Now you're going into the 2027 off season as a 32-year-old trying to get big money. So Terry McLaurin, you may want to go ahead and bite on whatever contract's being offered right now. I understand scratching and fighting for every penny, but it's only, as time passes by, you're only getting older, and it's only making things worse for you. The more time that passes, the less leverage that Terry McLaurin has. Again, the Commanders could just sit still and just force him to play this year. There's no way he's skipping this season. They can franchise tag him in 2026. If they want to be real petty, they can franchise tag him in 2027. I doubt we ever get to that point, but those are options that the Commanders have right now. He is under contract. He is not a free agent. And again, of course, if you skip this season, you're forego your contract. Now you have 1 year left on your deal going into next season, but you're 1 year older, so it's just ugly for him right now. I'm not going to lie. But shouts out to Bill Barnwell of ESPN. He helped to provide more context behind the financial divide between Washington and his best pass catcher. They said that McLaurin was asking for $30+ million, which isn't a huge reach as far as the market, where because Cincinnati Bengals are paying their number 2 wide receiver, not the number 1, the number 2 wide receiver, T. Higgins, an average of $28.8 million annually. So give Terry not 29, in my opinion, I guess, at that point. And of course, McLaurin has consistently delivered as well, having consecutive 1,000-yard seasons. So you feel like he deserves it, and he finally has a good quarterback. He's been through it and stuff like that. But at the end of the day, man, the market is the market, and your age is your age. I feel like a lot of people forget. Now, a lot of these contracts that we're comparing Terry McLaurin to, this is their second contract. Terry, you're turning 30. This is your third contract. That's the difference between you and guys like T. Higgins. This is your third time going for a contract. It's different. Now, granted, with DK Metcalf, he is technically going into his third extension as well. So again, I see why you're trying to compare yourself to him. But a lot of these other guys like T. Higgins and such are going into their second contract. That is a huge difference between you going into your third at 30 years old. And then also, now moving on later in that same day, moving on to Thursday evening, my dog Rio Robinson dropped a bombshell with his one-on-one interview with Jeremy Fowler, man. I mean, straight bombshell. My dog Rio Robinson not playing out there. And so ESPN insider Jeremy Fowler said that one particular team has pursued trading for Commanders wide receiver Terry McLaurin. And I thought that was really interesting too, because he's only willing to confirm that one team did. Mike Garafolo, that's pretty similar to what Mike Garafolo said about, it's not that big of a market out there. And I think Jeremy Fowler, the one reason that I'm kind of leaning towards him, if I had to pick somebody's sources to kind of believe in, I'm taking every source with a grain of salt, even Jeremy Fowler's, but I tend to believe in his a little bit more, because when he shares information, he's not doing it for clickbaiting or anything like that. He's not even willing to name the team that's potentially interested in Terry McLaurin. So he's clearly holding some sort of sensitive information that he doesn't want to get out there, which would break his trust with, being an insider for NFL teams around the league and having these sources and stuff like that, to where he knows stuff early. He's willing to break stuff early. He wants to keep that trust with whatever sources he has around the NFL. So there's this one team but he's not willing to even share what that team is. So I tend to kind of lean towards Jeremy Fowler because he seems like he actually is holding on to some real sensitive information that can't be released just yet. He can give you a little bit of like okay, there's a team out there, but I just can't tell you exactly who that team is. And then also, there was an interesting point brought up on Rio Robinson's interview with them as well, that when Terry McLaurin's relationship with the team, like how's that going right now? Jeremy Fowler said, quote, "In this case, I do think the relationship has been fractured some," unquote. And I thought it was interesting because he even explained that like players request trades all of the time for contract leverage and they end up ultimately signing a contract with the team because that's ultimately what they want to do. Whereas Terry McLaurin's just built a little different. Like his trade request actually hurt him a little bit in the heart. And it's just kind of like, maybe it's fractured some. I'm not worried about it being fractured to the point that his play declines in any way, like his chemistry with Jaden Daniels or anything is affected in any way. I think he's still going to go out there and give it 110% once he does sign his contract. Especially, I mean, money heals a lot of wounds. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if that ankle suddenly healed. I wouldn't be surprised if that hole in his heart is suddenly filled with dollar bills. You know what I'm saying? So I'm not worried about it, but I thought that was interesting that he said like Terry McLaurin's kind of different. Like a lot of these receivers that request trades, they've always had like a business relationship with the organization, with the team, with the GM or whatever. Whereas Terry McLaurin has kind of been like a little bit more emotional attachment to the team and stuff like that. So him requesting the trade kind of hurt him a little bit more than it does the average player. But at the same time, man, I feel you, Terry. But that's the reason we brought in Adam Peters and Dan Quinn to run this organization the correct way, the logical way, the winning way. Ron Rivera was really cool. He pulled on heartstrings. Really cool guy. Really cool guy to talk to, emotion, all that type of stuff. And Dan Quinn brings a lot of that as well, if not more in certain ways. But at the end of the day, Adam Peters runs this show. It's not the same clown show under Dan Snyder and those guys where we were just out there for fun and we were trying to do moral victories off the field rather than prioritizing winning on the field. We are working with logic, not emotion, not worried about how the fan base is going to feel, trying to win PR wars and stuff like that. We are strictly worried about football and what makes the most sense for us to not only win right now, to win a Super Bowl this year, but to be able to remain successful and consistently winning long term as well. We don't want to sell out, give you all of this money now, and then now it's a slippery slope. Now everybody's like, well, if Terry McLaurin got this money at 30, I deserve this much at something, and now everybody's asking for more money than they normally would. This could eventually turn into a slippery slope. I feel like that's why the Commanders are so hesitant to give whatever Terry McLaurin's asking for, because it's not just Terry alone. Once you pay Terry more money than what people assume he deserves, then everybody on the team or whoever wants to join the Commanders as an outside free agent from another team is going to be like, well, I think I deserve more money than what people feel like I deserve, because that's what y'all are doing. Y'all set this precedent of, you know, paying guys more than what the market says they probably actually deserve, especially by age and production and stuff like that. So why not me? So it could set an ugly standard. But then again, the argument against that on the other side is that you're treating this guy that's as crystal clean and pure on and off the field as it gets, health wise on the field, you know, human wise, leadership wise off the field. You're treating him like this. Yeah, how are you going to treat me? Like, it does probably send a bad message to the locker room that way as well. It's kind of a lose-lose in that way. Hopefully we can reach this happy middle and we can get this over with. But my point is, Terry, you know, with Ron Rivera and those guys, yeah, cool, they did. Dan Snyder was willing to pay you whatever you wanted, basically a blank check, but that didn't lead to winning. Adam Peters' logic and the reason that you're going through what you're going through right now is basically trying to lead to winning Super Bowls and being consistently competitive, being a Super Bowl contender, not just this year, but in the far future as well. By the time we get our new stadium in DC, RFK 2030, we're still a strong Super Bowl contender. Now, moving on, though, because Terry, and shouts out again to Rio Robinson with that interview with Jeremy Fowler. Make sure you go check that out. But now I want to talk about, is Terry needed? Well, first of all, 3013 brought up a good stat. They pointed out the fact that Washington quarterbacks, when throwing to Terry McLaurin since he entered the league in 2019, they've had a 100.3 passer rating. Any other wide receiver? An 82 passer rating. Comes the yards per attempt, 8.8 throwing to Terry, right? Only 6.2 throwing to anybody else. Touchdown to interception ratio, 2.5 throwing to Terry, 1.3 throwing to anybody else. And EPA per dropback, 0.27 throwing to Terry, negative 0.13 throwing to anybody else. He's very important. He's a really good receiver, and even to the point that I've brought up before, I think he has the type of game that will age well. So I understand the Commanders being hesitant on paying him a certain amount of money, but I'm not necessarily worried about the years on it, because the things that he's best at, I mean, now granted, the deep ball ability, you know, that maybe him losing some speed with him gaining age, that could affect that. But then again, if you're really savvy, you're really nuanced, you can fake some inside stuff and still beat people deep. A lot of the best deep ball receivers aren't even that fast. Like De'Ami Brown didn't even run that fast of a 40 time. He wasn't like a 4.3 guy or anything like that. So you can still be an effective deep ball guy just with some nuance, with some proper scheme and stuff like that. So I mean, I think that could still be okay. It won't be the same, but it can still be all right. He can still be a deep ball threat. He just may not be as great of one. But he's literally, I've already shown y'all the stats in several videos. He's literally the best contested catch receiver in the entire NFL. There's like 4 different stats that he's first in when it comes to contested catches, like passer rating when targeting Terry McLaurin in contested catch situations. He had the most contested catches in the NFL last year, like so many different stats. And that's not going to go away with age. I feel like Terry McLaurin can still be, at the very least, one of the best contested catch receivers in the NFL, even at age 35, well beyond when this contract extension that we're trying to sign him to right now ends. I think he'll firmly still be great at that. And that's one of the biggest parts of the reason why we really need him, is because we have some receivers with some explosion, we have some speed, we have some size. Terry McLaurin's the best contested catch receiver in the NFL. That's as dependable as it gets for a guy like for Jaden Daniels trying to always find somebody to throw the ball to. And Josh Taylor brings up a good point. He wrote in an article, the Commanders have a problem, a Terry McLaurin problem, and he's the only one benefited from right now. And that's because we don't have a lot of reliable weapons right now currently. He said at training camp, wide receivers have had flashes of great plays, but nobody has been able to stack good days consistently outside of a few players. The joint practice against the Patriots on Wednesday showed that the Commanders have a problem in the wide receiver room, and that's depth and production. John Keim even tweeted, while at the joint practice, without Terry McLaurin or Noah Brown, remember Terry McLaurin, technically an ankle, but of course it's more so the contract dispute. And then Noah Brown's still, like, he's not necessarily hurt, but they're still ramping him back up. So they didn't want him participating in the joint practice to potentially set him back from the recovery that he's already making. And so without Terry and Noah Brown, the passing game largely consisted of just hitting Zach Ertz over the middle, with Deebo Samuel and Austin Eckler typically being the other targets. That's it. Jaden Daniels only trusted basically around 3 people to throw the ball to on a consistent basis. That's not good. Even going back to Josh Taylor, he said McLaurin had a historic connection with Jaden Daniels last season, and that's hard to replace. But Deebo Samuel has been nothing but spectacular since he showed up in Washington. He's taking full advantage of McLaurin skipping out in training camp, and Samuel has been the clear best wide receiver on the field at practice, and is not remotely close. And that's interesting too, because that's a good point. Deebo Samuel has been insane this offseason. I'm trying to, hold myself back from getting too hyped, but I'm telling you right now, the things I'm seeing him doing so far in training camp, and even in that joint practice against the Patriots, are things I didn't even see him do that fantastic 2021 season that he had. That ridiculous season that he had where he really broke onto the scene and became a household name. Like, he was a big gadget weapon, not necessarily a receiver, not a nuanced route running, technically refined receiver. He was more so give him the ball in the backfield, behind the line of scrimmage, screens, reverses, stuff like that, and just let him work. Watch the magic. He's basically a running back at wide receiver. I've never before seen this version of Deebo Samuel that I've seen so far in training camp, where he has a release package at the line of scrimmage to beat press man. He has a more refined and more expansive route tree. I'm seeing him, being able to track the ball better from behind. I'm seeing consistent hands. I'm seeing he had a really good, ridiculous contested catch over a receiver's, the DB's helmet in that Patriots joint practice. I saw him last year with the 49ers dropping open slants at times. I don't know where this technically refined, more wide receiver-like version of Deebo Samuel came from, but I'm loving it. I think we may actually be getting the best version of Deebo Samuel in his career right now, at least wide receiver-wise. Again, he may never be like the same athletically and like as far as explosion and strength as he was that 2021 season, but I'm telling you right now, he's gonna he's a deep ball threat right now. He consistently, no matter the training camp practice, has at least one big touchdown play down the field. I do not remember that being a part of his game with the 49ers. So that is true that Deebo Samuel's balling out, but that doesn't make Terry McLaurin any less necessary. Because again, we were at that joint practice, or the Commanders reporters were there, and the Commanders were there, and it was just Zach Ertz over and over again with some Deebo Samuel and Austin Eckler sprinkled in. Now, shouts out to Austin Eckler for still being able to contribute as a dependable, receiver option out of the running back room. And then shouts out to Zach Ertz for being a safety blanket. But he's a tight end. Austin Eckler's a running back. Deebo Samuel right now is the only wide receiver in the entire wide receiver room that Jaden Daniels trusts right now. And that's not a good thing. So that gives Terry, I guess, a little bit of leverage, but ultimately none, because again, Commanders can just fold their arms. You're going to play for us in 2025. We can franchise tag you in 2026. You're only getting older. But our receiver room, and we're trying to win a Super Bowl right now, not looking too bright. And so Mike Hall of Breaking His Own brings up a good point. He said Mahomes didn't need Tyreek Hill to be great, but when he had him, he looked like the best quarterback to ever touch an NFL field. I want my quarterback to have as many weapons around him, especially until they got to pay him. And then we can go back to putting the team on his back to win mode. I completely agree. Like, technically we could win without Terry McLaurin, but why? I mean, Jaden Daniels on a rookie deal, man. This is the time to sell out and get as much talent around the quarterback as possible before we got to give him that record-breaking contract when his rookie deal ends, and that's not going to be pretty for our cap space. So right now, while we have the available cap space, please do whatever you got to do to surround him around with talent, because again, Jaden Daniels, to Mike Hall's point, is going to be great without Terry, but to the parallels to Pat Mahomes, he can look like the best quarterback of all time with Terry. Again, Pat Mahomes looked great even the years that he hasn't had Tyreek Hill, but he looked like literally the best thing to ever do it when Tyreek Hill was out there. I agree with Terry McLaurin. Terry McLaurin isn't as good as Tyreek Hill, but I would say he's more dependable as far as on and off the field wise. So there's some comparisons there. But then Marshall also brings up a good point, because people are talking about how Terry isn't a bona fide wide receiver one and stuff like that. Marshall said the sudden interest in watching Jaden carry Jags has to be the result of some Terry contract fatigue. And I agree, man. I think y'all are just so mad at Terry that it's clouding y'all judgment. We are not about to do anything. I mean, we can't go further than what we did last year without Terry. I can tell you that right now. Even with the additions of Laramie Tunsil, Deebo Samuel in our draft class and all of the free agents we brought in, we don't make it to the NFC Championship game last year without Terry, and I doubt we make it to this one without Terry as well. I'm telling you that right now. I love our team, but a lot of the predictions and projections I have for this team are based around Terry being part of the offense, man. And then also, what about Terry himself? Like, if Terry doesn't show up until the last second buzzer beater to sign his contract, that's going to affect how we start this season. David Aldridge wrote an article for The Athletic titled, "The Commanders and Terry McLaurin have to end this now and make a deal." He brought up a good point. The New England Patriots game is, of course, today, August 8th. Washington will then play the Bengals at Northwest Stadium 10 days later. And then 3 days after that, on the 13th, the Commanders will have a joint practice with the Ravens. 2 days after that, they'll play Baltimore in the final exhibition game on August 23rd. Those 14 days between the Patriots and Ravens games are the last chance for McLaurin to get live reps against opposing defenses and play with the Commanders offense in multiple practices. If he's still out after that, there will be next to no time for a safe ramp up in practice time before the regular season opener against the Giants on September 7th. That's all great points right there, man. Because it's not even just the chemistry with Jaden Daniels. Also, is Terry McLaurin in game shape? Is he ready to take hits like shoulder pads and helmets on? Are you ready to get hit by DBs that don't care about your health? Right now, Terry McLaurin's just, he's been exercising, he's probably been working out, but he hasn't been getting hit by 280 to 330 pounders on a consistent basis, so that will take some time to ramp up. He will be susceptible to a lot of injuries if he just goes out there week one and thinks he's going to play a lot without practicing prior to that. So the sooner we get him signed, the better, so that he can regain that chemistry with Jaden Daniels as well, which is my second point. If Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow can admit that Jamar Chase holding out last offseason, pretty much the entire offseason to the last second buzzer beater right before the regular season started, was the main reason for their slow start, in which ultimately, even though they were one of the better teams in the AFC by the end of the season, their record didn't show it because they lost so many games earlier in the season. They missed the playoffs because of it. If they can, be able to lose chemistry over the course of an offseason, why can't Jaden and Terry? Jaden and Terry have only played together for 1 year. Granted, their chemistry was great for that 1 year, and it seems like they kicked it off immediately. But how do we compare to Jamar Chase and Joe Burrow, who not only have played together for the Cincinnati Bengals for a few years already, even before last year, but even played together in college for a couple of years before that? They have like 5 to 6 years of rapport together and chemistry that they've built up. And Jamar Chase misses one off season trying to get a new contract, and then they're off to a slow start. Why would Jaden Daniels and Terry McLaurin be any different? I love Jaden, But I mean, it's just, if they can be off from Jamar Chase not practicing, imagine what Jaden and Terry could go through. And also, the last time McLaurin and Jaden Daniels played together was in the NFC Championship game in January. Now, granted, Terry McLaurin was there at voluntary OTAs phase 1 and half of phase 2, but that was way back before mandatory minicamp, before this training camp, all of that type of stuff, man. So it's not pretty. I'm not very optimistic about the chemistry that Jaden Daniels has right now with Terry McLaurin, so we need him to get back as soon as possible so we can go ahead and build on that. So not only do we need Terry McLaurin to sign a contract extension, we need that quickly. So now, any possible solutions? Well, going back to a Bleacher Report article, Spot Track values Terry McLaurin's potential contract that he will end up signing at $24.5 million, not even the $28.29 that I'm willing to sign him to right now, because they're referencing Courtland Sutton, Calvin Ridley, Devontae Adams, and Chris Godwin as the closest comps based on age, production, and contract status. I think that's fair. So I can see why the Commanders, especially with them being so analytics based with Brandon Sosna and all of those guys, why they're looking at, okay, those set of receivers are very close to you as far as age, production, and contract status. We're willing to pay you somewhere at that level or maybe a little bit more. But I can see why Terry McLaurin's looking at DK Metcalf like, I'm better than him, so I should be making just as much, if not more than him. And that's where this ugly chasm in the middle is at right now. Hopefully we figure this out, man. We got to get this going. But DC Sports Drake brings up a good point. He said, I don't see a scenario in 2025 where Terry isn't playing for the Commanders unless they find a team willing to give them a comparable player in a trade in return, because that's a good point. No matter how many first-round picks people offer, we want to win this year. Those first-round picks don't help us in 2025, so there will have to be a player involved as well. He'll be catching passes from Jaden Daniels, whether it's on a new contract on the one he's currently on. I agree. He's not about to skip out on this year for the same reasons I've already brought up earlier. He's only getting older, so he's going to be playing for us in 2025, whether it's on a new contract or an old one. I just hope it's a new one so that he can be as happy as possible and as optimistic and going out there being his usual self on and off the field. And then also Washington, D.C. Sports News brings us some interesting points. And I don't know, man. It sounds like he got some sources. Take this with a grain of salt. I don't know who his sources are, but he said, for what it's worth, I've never seen or heard the Commanders being as low as $23 million per year from whatever sources he has. Believe what sources you like. But as far as I know, the most recent Commanders contract offer to Terry was around $27 to $28 million per year range. So I don't know what sources he has. Again, I emphasize to take every piece of information, any report, any rumor with a grain of salt, but he's saying it with the utmost confidence, like from the people I'm hearing. Forget those random clickbait articles you're seeing out there from random reporters or random writers or whatever. From what I'm hearing, sources close to the whole situation are saying 27 to 28. That's what the Commanders are offering. Who knows what Terry wants, but it must not be that if he's not willing to sign that. So please make sure y'all decide, you as the viewer, which report, which numbers you think are actually real and which ones are just fluff. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know how you feel about everything discussed in videos. Please still follow that like button, still follow the subscription button, still follow the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. I'm happy to finally finish recording this video for a second time. But most importantly, man, let me know how y'all feel about everything discussed in this video. Like, which source, which reporter, which information do you trust the most? Which one do you believe the most? Also, if you had to guess from all of the information we received or whatever hunch you may have, how much do you think the Commanders are actually for real offering Terry? How much money do you think Terry is actually offering for real? Or willing to, what he's asking for? And then also, if you had to predict right now, how much money do you think Terry McLaurin will end up signing for if he signs with us? Do you believe Terry McLaurin will sign with the Commanders long term, or will he not? And then if he does, how much money do you think he'll end up actually being on an average annual salary? And if you want to throw in guarantees, because again, I feel like that's the more nuanced, correct way to talk about this. So if you want to dive into how many years and how much guaranteed money Terry gets, let me know that as well. And of course, let me know why and everything, because I'm going to try my best to read and reply to as many comments as possible, because I'm really interested in seeing what y'all come up with. And I want to see where y'all heads are at as far as this whole Terry McLaurin situation. I provided y'all all of the random sources and reports and rumors and things like that. I want to know what y'all's conclusions are to this situation. So make sure you leave a like on the way out. And again, I will be live streaming this entire preseason game. So make sure you pull up. Even though the game starts at 7:30, I will start streaming at 6:30 p.m. So stay tuned. Really appreciate y'all. I'm going to catch y'all later. I'm out.